So going into the 2025 season, you was hoping that again more continuously. You was hoping more of the same for the Houston Texans and how they finally got their quarterback in C.J. Stroud, and they was progressing, and it looks like they're building something in Houston. And also in 2025, you could see that again they're slowly building to this team that maybe I don't think they're there yet for championship winning team, but they were again getting closer. You look at again the Texans this season. They were second in the AFC South. There was a 12-5 team, so I really think they could have done a lot better. They did get to the wild card round. They beat well. We'll get to that later on. But the draft approach going into the 2025 season, Jalen. Well, they didn't have a first. They didn't have a first round pick going into the 2025 draft anyway because they traded that to the Giants. Second round pick was Jaden Higgins, wide receiver from Iowa. So again, what I like is again more weapons for CJ Stroud on the offense, on the offensive side of the ball. Arante Arasti, offensive tackle from Minnesota, was another late second round pick. And then they traded away a couple of picks to like the Bills and the Raiders, and then Jalen Knowles, wide receiver from Iowa. They traded a couple more picks to like Jacksonville, the Raiders again, the Vikings, the Commanders, Jacksonville, Broncos, and then later on in the rounds they traded Jalen Reed, a safety, Penn State, Graham Mertz, quarterback from Florida, Kanate Hamilton, defensive tackle from Syracuse, then Luke Lockley, tight end from Iowa. And then you look at their offense. I mean, they have Dalton Schultz, Jalen Noel, like I just said, Christian Kirk, who I think is a good option to have, Xavier Hutchinson, Nico Collins, who again I'll talk about later on, Braxton Berrios. So again, you're looking at that wide receiver core, and it's not bad. So it's not a bad core to have around with CJ Stroud as your quarterback. And then you look at the schedule here. They didn't have the best of starts really. They was on the road to they lost on the road to the Rams. They lost at home to the Buccaneers, and then they lost on the road to Jacksonville. So they're 0-3 or they're instantly 0-3, which isn't the best of start. And they pick that back up. They get the first win at home against the Titans. Beat Baltimore at home on the road. Then they come off the bye week in week 6. They then they lose on the road to Seattle. They beat the 49ers at home. They get a great win against Jacksonville at home, and then they beat the Titans, the Bills. They get a great home win against the Bills. They beat Indiana on the road, beat the Chiefs on the road, and then they finish the rest of the season beating the Cardinals at home, beating the Raiders, getting a great road win against the Chargers, and then finishing the regular season with a 8-point win against the Colts at home. CJ Stroud had a pretty good year, I thought. Like, he had over 3,000 passing yards. Nico Collins had over 1,117 receiving yards. Points against, they had the second best defense in the league, and that's down to Will Anderson. That's down to like just Will Anderson and how great that defense has been under DeMeco Ryan. Like, Will Anderson and Danielle Hunter, like, that is such a good unit to have in the secondary. But also you've got Derek Singletary Jr. and Kamari Lucer, and then Gardner Johnson as well. That is a really good secondary to have. And then I know that there was only second behind Seattle, but this was a really good defense. I think really the biggest problem was their offense this season. On the offensive line was the biggest problem. Like, they was 13th in the league for offense, and the pass protection and the run block was the really biggest problems in this team. They had a high amount of turnovers as well. There's a lot of times where CJ Stroud was getting turned over heavily, and ultimately I think if you're going into the 2026 season, you've got to beef up that offensive line. You've got to be better at run blocking and pass protection. And I know that you look at the left tackle, Anarte Areste, he was struggling with a lot of pressures. He was giving away like 11 penalties in the season. And I know he's a young rookie and he's adapting to the NFL, but he was just play better football. It just comes down to Arnarte playing better. He needs to play better football because again, when he was struggling with pressures and he's allowing 11 penalties in the regular season. So that has to be improved, and ultimately, like I said earlier, they did get to the wild card. They beat the Steelers on the road, and they also ended the Steelers' undefeated streak on Monday Night Football, which first time since like '91 when the Giants last did that, and then they lost to the Patriots in the playoff divisional round, 28-16, and that again was down to them not coping well with the run block and pass protection. So what do they need in this offseason? Well, they need a couple of starters left tackle. I think they need to address the left tackle again because I think Anarte Areste is not, I don't know, it's his rookie year, but so he needs to help him with backup. They need a right tackle. Just beef up the offensive line in general. You need a couple of starters in there. Defense, you don't need to work with it. You don't really need to do anything with the defense really, because again, you've got like CJ Gardner-Johnson, Will Anderson Jr., Danielle Hunter, Derek Singletary. You've got a good unit there, so you don't need to mess with the defensive side of the ball. If it ain't broke, don't fix it, kind of thing. We'll go down here. Looking at the draft though for 2020. Oh, cap space. We didn't talk about the cap space. Cap space. You have about $8 million to spend in cap space, $39 million in dead cap. So you gotta be smart with what you do in this off season if you're the Texans GM. You're looking into the draft, like I said. You do have a first round pick, 28th overall. You could have a second round pick, a third round pick, a fourth, and a fifth, and a sixth, and a seventh round pick. But yeah, the biggest thing you need to address is going into the 2026 draft. You have to address the offensive line and maybe move on a couple of people on this offense as well. Like you can move on a Dalton Schultz, and move on Schultz and a couple more of these guys that you kind of, or whatever. You can move on a couple of people on kind of like the tight end and stuff, but the most important thing you got to work on is especially the offensive line. Dalton Schultz coming in, you could probably move him on. Harrison Bryant, I guess you could keep him, but yeah. Definitely beef up tight end and offensive line, in my opinion. Like you had the 13th best offense in the league. That has to be one of the main issues you've got to be working on for 2026.